When you stand in a museum, right, and you're looking at a masterpiece, like a classic Renaissance painting, you're not just looking at a flat layer of color.
Oh, definitely not.
Right. I mean, you're experiencing this brilliant optical illusion. There is the raw texture of the canvas, the moody underpainting that sets the whole tone, and then finally those really delicate, translucent glazes layered on top.
Yeah, and your eye takes all of the separate elements and just sort of combines them into one final visible hue.
Exactly.
The final image is entirely dependent on how light travels through those distinct layers, interacts with the materials, and then bounces back to you, the viewer. It's a total composite effect.
Welcome to today's deep dive. Today, we are looking at a really fascinating stack of sources. It's a detailed anatomy and physiology primer on skin color and melanin.
It's a great stack of research.
It really is. And our mission today is to explore the brilliant and honestly deeply misunderstood science of pigment. We are moving way past the surface to help you understand how melanin, blood flow, and other biological factors actually give your skin its color.
Yeah, and where this incredibly complex biology comes from.
Right, and why it matters to your health today.
Because establishing the tone here is important. I think the most fascinating part of this topic is how a cellular defense mechanism, which is what this is, was historically mistaken for this rigid category of human identity.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can look at why skin color varies so much, we first have to define what skin color actually is.
Right.
And going back to that Renaissance painting analogy from our sources, human skin is a lot like that. It's a translucent, multi-layered painting.
So the optical effect.
Exactly. So if we break down the ingredients, you have the background canvas, which is the collagen and the dermis, the deep layer of your skin, and that collagen scatters light.
Yeah, it creates the base. And then you have the underpainting, which is so interesting because things get surprisingly colorful before we even talk about melanin.
The blood flow, right.
Exactly. There's a whole network of dermal blood vessels carrying hemoglobin. So when you blush or you're hot, that hemoglobin is oxygen-rich and gives the skin a pink or red hue. Medically, we call that erythema.
Oh, right. And if you're cold.
If you're cold or, lacking oxygen, that hemoglobin turns a darker blue, which gives a bluish tint called cyanosis.
Wow. And the underpainting isn't just blood, though. I mean, diet plays a huge role, like the carrots.
Yes, the carrots. Dietary carotenoids can actually tint your skin yellow or orange. Like if you eat a massive amount of sweet potatoes or carrots, carotene builds up.
And it literally changes your skin color.
It does. It's a condition called carotenemia, completely independent of the sun. Or, on more serious note, jaundice, where a yellow compound called bilirubin builds up if your liver is failing.
So we have this light-scattering collagen canvas. We have the underpainting of blood and diet, and then the body applies the top glaze, which is melanin.
The dominant pigment, yeah.
But the sources say melanin isn't just one thing, and the origin of the word is kind of wild.
It is. So it was coined back in 1840 by the Swedish chemist Jöns Jacob Berzelius.
And he wasn't even studying human skin, was he?
No, he was studying the eyes of an ox.
That is so random.
Right. He pulled this pigment from an ox eye and called it melanin, from the Greek word melos, meaning black. But it took nearly a century for us to figure out the human biochemistry.
The Raper-Mason pathway.
Exactly.
Huh.
In the 1920s and 40s, researchers figured out that melanin is a class of polymers. The body takes an amino acid called tyrosine and an enzyme called tyrosinase and basically oxidizes it into this pigment.
And there are two types, right?
Yeah, brown-black eumelanin and red-yellow pheomelanin.
So what happens if that enzyme, the tyrosinase, is broken?
Well, if you lack functional tyrosinase, the factory is broken. The cells are there, but they can't make the pigment, and that results in albinism.
Wow. Okay, so zooming in on that factory, if we all have this paint box, how does the body actually apply that glaze?
So we have to go down to the deepest layer of the epidermis, the stratum basal. That's where we find the epidermal melanin unit.
The melanocytes, they look like little trees, or like octopuses in the diagrams.
Yeah, they're dendritic cells, so they have these long-reaching branches. These melanocytes make pigment packets called melanosomes.
Like little shipping container.
Exactly like shipping containers. And they ship them down their branches to about 30 or 40 surrounding normal skin cells, called keratinocytes.
Okay, but here is where I hit a wall on the reading. Wait, so you're telling me someone with extremely dark skin and someone with extremely pale skin have the exact same number of pigment-producing cells?
What's fascinating here is that biology often relies on efficiency, not just raw numbers. So yeah, this famous 1969 Sabo study proved that the absolute number of melanocytes is basically the same across all human populations.
That's crazy. So the factory count is identical.
Identical, it only varies by body part, like your face has more than your arm, but between you and someone with a totally different skin tone, same number of factories.
Then why do we look so different?
It's all about melanosome biology, the packaging and the shipping. In darker skin, the melanocytes make larger melanosomes, pack them super densely with that darky melanin, and they degrade very slowly.
So the pigment sticks around longer in the skin layers.
Right. But in lighter skin, the melanosomes are smaller, they're clustered together, they have more of that red-yellow pheomelanin, and the skin cells break them down much faster.
So they disappear before they can heavily tint the upper skin.
Exactly.
And what the skin cells do with these packages is just incredible. The sources called them tiny umbrellas.
That is exactly what they are. The keratinocytes arrange the melanosomes physically over their nucleus like a cap.
To shield the DNA.
Right, to shield it from UV radiation. So the color we see on the outside is just a byproduct of this tiny internal umbrella protecting our DNA.
Okay, so if the cellular machinery is identical across humanity with the factories, the umbrellas, why did the packaging evolve to be so drastically different depending on geography?
Well, to figure that out, we have to look at the work of two anthropologists, Nina Jablonski and George Chaplin from the year 2000.
You use NASA data for this, right?
They did. They took NASA satellite data showing global UV radiation levels, and they overlaid it with data on indigenous skin reflectance.
And it was a perfect match.
Completely linear match. But the breakthrough was their vitamin D folate hypothesis. It's the ultimate evolutionary trade-off.
Let's talk about that trade-off.
Yeah.
Because at the equator, where the sun is intense, you'd think dark skin evolved just to prevent skin cancer.
Yeah, that's the common assumption. But skin cancer usually hits post-reproduction. So evolutionarily, it's not a primary driver. The real driver is folate, vitamin B9. Intense UV light actually destroys folate in the blood, and pregnant women need folate for fetal development.
Right. If you don't have it, it causes severe birth defects.
Catastrophic neural tube defects. So near the equator, dark skin evolved as a crucial field to protect those folate stores so the next generation could survive.
But then humans migrated. They moved north to high latitudes.
Right, to places with really weak sunlight. And suddenly, that heavy melanin shield is a huge liability.
Because it blocks the UVB radiation you need to make vitamin D.
Exactly. And without vitamin D, you get rickets, weak bones, you can't hunt, you can't give birth safely. So lighter skin evolved in those areas to let more UVB in.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because you read this and wonder how geneticists track this stuff. And the sources brought up this 2005 study about a zebrafish.
Oh, the golden zebrafish, it's amazing.
How does an aquarium fish explain human skin?
So these researchers, Keith Chang and Rebecca Lamison, were studying this mutant zebrafish that had really pale stripes. And they traced it to a specific gene called SLC24A5.
And then they just looked for the human version of that gene.
Yep. And they found a variant, the A111T variant, that accounts for like 25 to 40% of the skin tone difference between European and African populations.
From a fish.
From a fish. And it just shows that skin color is this fast-evolving, continuous trait. It's collineal. It just shifts gradually across the globe.
And it even evolved convergently, right?
Right. Dark skin in South Asians and dark skin in sub-Saharan Africans evolved through different genetic routes. Nature just found different ways to build the exact same umbrella to protect against the sun.
It's beautiful biology. But this beautiful science totally contradicts how society, and honestly the medical field, has treated skin color historically.
Yeah, the real-world consequences of misunderstanding this are massive.
I mean, old anthropology, apartheid, the Nazis, they all used skin color to create rigid biological hierarchies.
Which is complete pseudoscience. Modern genomics has thoroughly debunked race as biology.
Right, the variation within racial groups is larger than between them.
Exactly. The genes controlling melanin sort completely independently from other traits. It's just a handful of genes responding to the sun.
But this misunderstanding still impacts medicine today, like the Fitzpatrick scale.
Yeah, the Fitzpatrick scale, created in 1975 by a Harvard dermatologist, Thomas B. Fitzpatrick.
And it wasn't even meant to classify race, was it?
Not at all. He created it for PUVA therapy, which is a light therapy for psoriasis. He just needed to safely dose UVA light without burning his patients in Boston.
But then dermatology just sort of informally adopted it as a global standard.
And it fails miserably at that. It lumps a massive amount of human diversity into just a few dark categories.
Which leads to terrible diagnostic disparities.
It really does, because textbooks and even modern AI diagnostic tools over-relied on lighter skin images. We see dangerous gaps in detecting melanoma, rashes, and cyanosis in darker-skinned patients.
The illnesses just get missed.
Totally missed until they are in much more dangerous later stages.
Speaking of dangerous medical myths, let's talk about tanning. Because people think, well, my body builds an umbrella. But isn't a base tan a protective measure? People always say they're getting a base tan to protect their skin for summer.
This raises an important question because we really need to dismantle this myth. A tan is not harmless. It's not proactive.
Okay.
The immediate or delayed tan is a visible marker that UV-induced DNA damage has already occurred.
Oh, wow. So the damage is already done.
Already done. The damaged DNA triggers this biochemical alarm. It's called the P53-POMC cascade. The cells are basically screaming, we've taken structural damage, produce more umbrellas.
So a tan is literally just the smoke from a fire that's already burning in your cells.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
But even with those umbrellas, melanin isn't a perfect shield. The sources mention this thing called the melanoma paradox.
This is a wild and somewhat controversial area of debate. So we know heavy melanin protects against UV, but that red-yellow pigment, pheomelanin, might actually be pro-oxidant.
Wait, meaning the pigment itself is causing damage?
That's the theory. That pheomelanin might generate reactive oxygen species, basically rusting the cells from the inside independently of the sun.
So that would explain why people with red hair have higher melanoma rates, even on skin that never sees the sun.
Exactly. It's a humbling reminder of how complex our chemistry really is.
So what does this all mean? I mean, we've gone from the paint box of pigments to finding out we all have identical cellular factories. We've talked about evolutionary trade-offs for vitamin D and folate, and we've unpacked some pretty heavy medical myths.
I think it means that understanding our own biology is critical. We need UV safety, we absolutely need inclusive dermatology, and we need to stop viewing skin color as identity.
Yeah, and before we go, there's this final provocative thought from the sources that I just have to bring up.
The evolutionary mismatch.
Yes. For 2 million years, our skin perfectly adapted to the specific latitude where our ancestors lived.
A perfect localized defense system.
But today, we've completely uncoupled our biology from our geography.
We really have. I mean, we have airplanes, we work indoor office jobs, we have global migration.
Right. Someone with highly efficient, dark UV-blocking skin might be living in London, dealing with a severe vitamin D deficiency.
Well, someone with pale skin might fly to the equator for a week and completely overwhelm their cellular umbrellas, taking massive DNA damage.
It's an evolutionary mismatch. As we spend more time indoors and move freely across the globe, you really have to wonder how our incredibly adaptable tiny umbrellas are going to evolve next.
It's something to think about every time you look in the mirror.
It really is. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the science of pigment. We hope you look at your own masterpiece of a skin a little differently today. Catch you next time.